Marnie's Grimsnarl is one of the strongest decks at the moment, but I see a lot of people making crucial mistakes. Sometimes playing matchups completely wrong. But don't worry, because after this guide, you'll be winning all of your matchups easily. By the way, this is a deck list I have in mind when I'm talking about matchups. It's very consistent with a lot of supporters, 3 boss, 3 night stretcher, and overall super consistent. Now, into the mirror match. This matchup is mostly about knocking out each other's Monkey Dories. If you have more Monkey Dories than your opponent, you're probably winning. So gusting up and knocking out a monkey with energy is always a good choice. This is an ideal setup, having 1 or 2 Grimsnarls out, and as many Monkey Dories as you have the chance to set up. If you want to bench down your Shaman, is a bit more complicated though. You want to have damage on your side of the board, so you can use Monkey Dory to fling it back at your opponent. That's why you normally don't want to set up a Frostlass, as you give them free damage to put onto your side of the board. And if they set up a Frostlass, you might want to put down your Shaman, because then Shadow Bullet plus Frostlass won't be able to pick up free KOs. And try to use the damage you do get from their Shadow Bullets to try to knock out Snow Runts, Impidimps, or set up for big TM Devo turns. In the Dragapult matchup, you want to prioritize getting out Frostlasses. This is so that damage on Dracloaks start building up, and maybe getting a TM Evo into 2 Frostlasses is a really strong start. And if they're not setting up well, and it doesn't look like they'll get an attack off next turn, you can Badu and build up some damage with Frostlass. And then sometimes you don't even want to knock out a healthy Dragapult, you can just Devo them and try to win with that Devo play. If they play the Dusknoir build, then you'll be getting 1 or 2 extra prizes, so keep that in mind when you're prize mapping. And with the Charizard, it's a bit harder for you, but you can still Devo and then all their Charizards are down. But you really need to set up the Frostlass early. Now, Gardevoir is a pretty favored matchup, as you can one-shot them with Shadow Bullet. Now, this is the only other matchup where you don't want to set up a Frostlass, as they normally get more Monkey Dories out than you with Turbo Energize. So you don't want to give them damage to throw at you. Now, one good play you can make is if they attack with a weaker Pokemon like a Monkey Dory or a Fluttermane, you can counter Catcher or boss up a Gardevoir, and then use Shadow Bullet and Monkey Dory damage to knock out a benched Ralts, then leaving them with no Gardevoir in play, and no way to do meaningful damage and knock out a Grimsnarl, letting you to take back-to-back attacks. Now, Gardevoirs often like to use Mind Bend or Monkey Dory to confuse Grimsnarl, and that can be quite risky for us, because if we flip Tails, we do 60 damage to ourselves, and don't get an attack off. So normally what I like to do is just not risk it unless I need to risk it to win the game, and just try to set up some Monkey Dories and set up a second Grimsnarl, so maybe we could retreat into it, and just Monkey Dory the damage off and focus down their monkeys. Raging Bolt can seem like a tough matchup, as you can easily get one-shotted by Raging Bolts, Teal Mask Ogapons, and your bench sniped down by the Baby Bolts. But if you play a Shaman, you can counter out the Baby Bolt, and by sitting behind Badus for part of the game and Frostlassing, you can build up damage on their Noctowls, Latiases, Squawkabillies, Ogapons, and then eventually have big multi-prize turns. I would only have 1 and maybe 2 Grimsnarls a game, because they can easily one-shot them, and maybe you only want to have 1 to close out the game. Otherwise, they'll take 2 single prizes really easily at the start of the game, and just knock out 2 Grimsnarls to wrap it up before you can get any meaningful damage on the board. EV Box can be another confusing matchup, and in this one you really just need to prize race them, as they do have the Leafeon which can one-shot your Grimsnarls. You need to set up some Frostlass so that the Hoot Hoots and Noctowls start getting some damage, and just prize race them, knocking out their support Pokemon like Pheasantipede and Latias before they can take out your Grimsnarls, which they will be able to do. And then at the end of the game, you can set up a Devo play using some Monkey Dories and frost less damage to Devo, Knockdowns, and EVs, and take some prize cards to win the game. But keep in mind, if you do try to Devo a Leafeon without winning the game, it'll go back into their hand and they can use the EV to instantly evolve it next turn. Now, Charizard's a pretty even matchup. They've got lots of one prize Pokemon that you can pick off at the start of the game, but at the end of the game they do get a very strong Charizard which can one-shot your Grimsnarl. So you don't want to go down to one prize card and let them get that one-shot. So instead of trying to knock out Charizards, set up lots of Monkey Dories and damage all over their board so that they can't handle it, and eventually you can use Devolution to wipe out the entire game. The final matchup I'll be talking about is Goldango. You want to set up 1 or 2 Frostlesses early because sometimes they play Dracloak as well, and overall they just have a lot of abilities. Like other matchups where you want to rack up damage, it's okay to just sit behind a Budu and let some damage rack in while you wait. And then, once their Goldangos can be one-shot by Shadow Bullet, then you start swinging in with Grimsnarls and doing some big damage. Also, Devo, very strong here, can just wipe 4 Goldangos instantly and win you the game. So those are all of the biggest matchups. If you have any questions for matchups, just leave them in the comments below.